This particular bike has very small wheels back and front, in part to allow really to make the whole bike as small as possible, and also to get the center of gravity of the bike in roughly the right position. If we used a bigger back wheel, which would help us a little bit in rolling resistance, we would have to move the back wheel backwards, which would increase the size of the fairing and would also make the center of gravity shift effectively forwards, and there would be too much weight on the front wheel. As it is, we're sitting at around about 60% of the weight on the front wheel and about 40% on the back wheel. This bike is also technically a short wheelbase, the definition being that the crank is in front of the front wheel, which is a departure from the previous bike, which was a medium wheelbase where the crank was over the front wheel. Thank you.
Okay, go.
Here we have a very low, far reclining seat. The idea there is to get the rider's head as low as possible.
Okay, next. Okay, I'm rolling.
We, in this bike, have used a front wheel drive, which means that we don't have to put the drive from the crank underneath the bike to the back wheel, and that helps save frontal area. The front wheel drive must have the tension side of the chain.
Sorry, can you just pick that up again on the front wheel drive?
Okay.
A front wheel drive must not torque steer. In other words, when you apply power on the crank, you mustn't turn the steering. And to do that, we run the tension side of the chain parallel to the steering head, which means that we can isolate the power forces from steering forces.
Okay, and then you spoke about the gear ratio.
Got it, okay.
Here we are running 2 or 3 gears in front to 8 at the back, giving us 24 ratios, and our gearing is sitting at around about 250-inch gearing compared to an ordinary bicycle of around about 100-inch gearing. We need this in view of the speed that we're reaching.
Just stand on a sec. Okay. What else? Okay.
This bike is technically a short wheelbase recumbent. It's a short wheelbase because the front wheel axle is behind the crank.
That question, okay, so it's okay, you can just point it from there.
I'm rolling.
Okay. What about steering on a bicycle like this? Surely your chain and your front wheel and your pedals are all going to clash.
This is not really a problem. What we do to allow the steering is to allow the chain just to twist. As you can see, it twists here, and any difference in chain length is taken up with the tensioner here, which serves the second purpose of guiding the chain onto the front wheel, which is absolutely essential, otherwise it derails the chain as you steer. The steering, in fact, is very, very small in practice. As you ride, you hardly move the wheel more than about this amount.
What about the chains clashing against each other?
The chains, as you see them here, can touch each other, and this in practice does not seem to be a problem. Normally at the higher speeds that we're running, the chain has moved over to the smaller sprockets, and then they're quite widely separated. They only have a danger of touching in the lowest of gears, where in hill climbing it doesn't seem to be a problem. If your guidance is good, as you can see here, we don't have a problem.
Just point again to where the guidance.
As the chain is guided well here, that keeps it running onto the sprocket, and we don't have a problem.
Okay. 9 and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and off you go.
Okay, Mike, as far as the actual design of the fairing is concerned, what were the problems you had to deal with here?
Well, the first and the most important parameter is to get the rider to fit inside the fairing, because if you've got clashing points, it's obviously not suitable. The second parameter is an odd one, and that is that you've got to have a single plane bend windscreen. In other words, the windscreen must be able to be made by bending a flat sheet in one plane, because we had a lot of problems with our one earlier three-wheeler where we had to blow the windscreen and make it a two-plane bend, and those were really a problem. This one as you can see, works very much with the bike. And the first problem we have is to make sure that the rider's toes don't touch the fairing in front here.
Alright, I have to do that again.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, and off you go.
Right, so what problems have you had in the actual design of the fairing?
Well, the first problem, of course, is to make sure that the rider fits inside. And the main objective is to reduce the air resistance as much as possible. One limitation is that the windscreen must be a single plane bend, and then you go from there. We set the front width by the size of the rider's pedals. We try and keep the air attached as far as possible by gently expanding the fairing out until we come near the back, where we say, okay, we've lost it now, and we'll close off as fast as possible. A problem in running in the Cape is to keep the yaw drag down, and this we do as the air is coming from the side. We round the side of the fairing to reduce the yaw drag. Okay.
Okay, Wimpie, can you point the mic at me, because I want the question in. Okay, let's take it from the top again.
Yes.
Okay. Mike, it seems to be a matter of give and take with the design of the fairing. What problems have you had here?
Yes, it very much is. One of the problems in the Cape is that you have a lot of wind, and to reduce the side wind problem, we've made the side of the fairing quite rounded so that we don't have so much side wind effect.
What about the drag coefficients involved in this whole design?
We're not sure what the drag coefficient is, but it's in the order of between 0.1 and 0.15, which compares to a good car around about 0.3.
But that is a matter of give and take, I take.
Yes. In rounding the side, we've actually increased our air resistance, but we've made it so it is more stable in side winds. And we could have improved it if we'd made it a purpose-built one for record purposes only, but we have to make it suitable for all kinds of uses.
And the fold, just pointed out to me, yes?
Yeah, you have a single plane bend windscreen, because these are much easier to make than a double plane bend.
Okay, that's fine. Right.
The width of the nose is determined by the positions of the pedals.
Okay, then show me the airflow over the skin.
We try and keep the airflow as smooth as possible by gently expanding the width of the fairing until we get right near the back, where we say we've lost it, and we close off as fast as possible.
Okay, Mike.
The side of the fairing is very much more rounded than previous models to cope with the side wind problem, where a very slab-sided fairing has wind problems.
Okay.
Sorry, just to think.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Once the design has been effected, the next stage is to manufacture it. And with me now is Bruce Hamilton. Bruce, exactly what is your role in all of this?
My position is to take from the paperwork that Mike and I have agreed on, shape-wise, size-wise, I then have to transform that into a polystyrene foam block, which gets shaped down to the smallest size possible so that the rider can still fit inside it. And from that we produce the plug from which we produce the molds.
What are the materials that you're actually using?
The actual plug itself is polystyrene, which gets shaped. That gets covered in fiberglass to make it hard and smooth. The molds are then taken off that, which are again fiberglass, then opened up, and the laminate for the final product gets done inside the molds. The final product is made of fiberglass, carbon fiber and epoxy, with a sandwich construction built into it, vacuumed in, and then another layer of glass over that again. And that is all made into one piece. The canopy is a separate mold, and that then finally gets sprayed, and the artwork and the sponsors' decals get put on afterwards.
How important is weight when you're working with these sort of materials?
Well, it's very important because the rider himself is obviously a large part of the weight, but the dead weight of the bicycle and the fairing is a big problem for uphill in particular. And so we need to cut the weight down as much as possible, and that's why we use these more exotic materials, the carbon fiber in particular, to give it the stiffness that we require, the Kevlar to give it some strength, especially for crashing, that it doesn't wear its way right through or just crack, which carbon fiber would do, but the carbon fiber keeps it nice and stiff. The sandwich construction basically gives it some volume and some thickness to the skin so that it's nice and rigid.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, go. Okay, we manufacture the mold, which is this black section on the plug. Once it's made, we remove it, and this and the other half are the two pieces that we use for manufacturing the final product. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, just explain what you're doing. Okay, and off you go.
Okay, the molds are pre-treated with a release agent.
Start again.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, go again.
Okay, the mold is pre-treated with a release agent so that when we put the resin in it, the product doesn't stick to the molds. And this is the Kevlar, which is the gold one. The carbon fiber is a black fabric, and that gets laid into the molds and then it gets wetted out with resin, epoxy resins, and then that cures overnight and we can demold it the following day.
That's why I say you have a few programs.
Just press it against the side again.
Like that?
Yeah. And just show how you paint the resin over it.
Well, I need a squeegee.
No, sure, but okay, show me. Yeah. That's fine. Okay, thanks. Just talk to us. Tell us what you're doing.
Okay, so it's
Okay.
the same thing.
The mold is pre-released so that the laminate doesn't stick to the actual molds, and then we put the Kevlar into the molds plus the carbon fiber, which is a black fabric, and then that gets laminated into the with resins into the mold.
Just help him put it in. Just go through the procedure. That's it. Thank you. Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Off you go.
Looks like something from another planet, doesn't it? This is an HPV, a human-powered vehicle, and the person best expert at this in this country is Wimpie van der Merwe. You might remember he broke one of the world records around about Easter, and we spoke to him on Good Morning South Africa. Wimpie, just why get involved in this HPV? No, cocking it up.
Kom maar, Karl.
Yeah.
Okay, and a 5 and a 4. Like it.
That's okay.
3, 2, 1. Off you go.
Looks like something from another planet, doesn't it? Well, it's actually an HPV, a human-powered vehicle. Very simply, it's a bicycle, but there's a lot more to it than that. The person most expert at riding HPVs in South Africa is Wimpie van der Merwe. He's broken a number of world records, and you might remember around about Easter, we spoke to him on Good Morning South Africa. But I want to find out a little bit more about these HPVs. Wimpie, exactly why do you involve yourself in this?
Great.
Okay, and then if I can just do the backlink, Fred.
Okay, sure. Okay, this is the backlink.
All right.
Well, that was Wimpie van der Merwe, but let's find out now a little bit more about the design. Let's go down into Cape Town and speak to Mike Kramer.
Just do it again, but don't bash on the.
Okay.
No. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Kijk
Okay,
nou.
Wimpie, look at me. That's Wimpie van der Merwe, but let's find out a little bit more about the actual design of this HPV. Let's go down into Cape Town and speak to Mike Kramer.
Ah, there's my. So the view is clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Wimpie X. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Off you go.
Wimpie van der Merwe, but let's find out a little bit more about the design of this HPV. There's a lot of local South African work which has gone into it. One of the main forces in the design, in the center of Cape Town where we're going to go now, is Mike Kramer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Local HP.
Sorry, start it. And go.
Local HPV expert Wimpie van der Merwe. There's a lot of local design in this particular bicycle. Let's now go into Cape Town, find out a little bit more about that with Mike Kramer.
Okay, got it. And a 5, and a 4, and a 3, and a 2, and a 1. Off you go.
Okay, Wimpie, just very briefly, why do you involve yourself in this particular sport?
Steve, I think I would like to be known as the fastest human being on Earth, being driven by his own energy. And I think this is a way to do it.
That's basically what we're talking about here, HPV meaning human-powered vehicle.
Yes, I think in the broad sense, one could talk about a human-powered vehicle. I would prefer to say it's a bicycle, aerodynamic bicycle, but fully enclosed for aerodynamic purposes.
You are training pretty hard right now. There are a number of events coming up. Just tell us a bit about that.
I'm preparing to leave soon for Europe, for the European Championships in Copenhagen and Denmark, and then in August to compete in the World Championships in Minneapolis in the USA.
Okay.
But no.
Is there anything else you want to add? Or do you think the story
Can I
gets
say
told?
hi, Mom?
Sure.
Let's see.
I think we've pretty much covered
Yeah,
the whole thing.
I prefer to stay on the background. Let the other actors
Let the other-
in the
yeah.
project.
Just talk to him.
Talk to me.
Yeah, no, you must talk to him.
Okay, what did you have for lunch?
No, you mustn't talk. You must just listen.
Who
You
is
tell
this?
me. You tell me. What did you have for lunch?
Oh, I must tell you. Okay, so pizza, and more pizza. But obviously there can be hazards riding a bike like this. People might not see you. Other bikes are not aware.
Great.